Welcome everyone to the first in a series, or what we hope is a series of webinars supported by DTAC, which is the Data and Technical Assistance Centre. This is a supply chain facility that's being supported by the New Zealand government through MFAT, and we're very happily and excitedly supporting the 6 Polynesian countries and territories through that mechanism. But these webinars will be open to everyone to join in as we go along, and very much designed to fit Pacific time zones. So hopefully this time suits everyone, although if it doesn't suit people, please let us know. So today's series is starting on stocktakes in mSupply. The focus won't just be on mSupply, it'll be on, in each version of the webinar, will be on things surrounding that functionality or that task in supply chain, but obviously centered around mSupply and how the functionality works there. We hope that going forward that these webinars will in fact be hosted by people in and from the Pacific. We would like them to be hosted by users with a lot of experience. And so we'll be tapping a few of you on the shoulder to present on different topics that we know that you're particularly good at or particularly experienced in. But please, they're supposed to be very informal and they're supposed to be collaborative. So if you have any ideas or you would like to present a webinar, it's as you can see, all the names are really familiar names. So there's you will be in the company of friends if you volunteer to do one, and we hope to do that for every single one in the future. But today's presenter is, well, the pronunciation of your name might depend on whether you're in Vanuatu, in which case I've been practicing this. It's Richard Moiseux, but he'll probably correct me on that. But everyone else, he tells me, can call him Richard. Richard is quite a new consultant for the mSupply Foundation, and whilst he will be working a lot on some programs that they're running in Africa, particularly some of the French-speaking countries in Africa, he'll also be supporting across projects in the Pacific. Richard has 7 years of experience working in supply chain across all aspects, from project management, procurement, planning, and tender management, as well as experience now with both mSupply and other softwares like SAP. A little bit of housekeeping before I throw over to Richard. Halfway through, we are going to offer people the option to go into a breakout room for mSupply Mobile. So when we get to the part where we're going through how you do stock takes in mSupply, Richard will continue to work in mSupply Desktop, but if you would like to see it in mSupply Mobile, I'll be in the breakout room going through mSupply Mobile. It's a bit of an experiment. If nobody comes and joins, that's totally fine. I'll come back to the main room. We just thought that there might be some interest from people who are more interested in mSupply Mobile stock taking. The slides that Richard is going through today, we will share with everyone at the end. So there's no need to worry about that. We have everyone's email because you've registered to join today, and we'll share those immediately after. And they have slides on both mSupply Desktop and on mSupply Mobile. We'll be doing live demonstrations today of the software, but there's also slides in there as well for everyone. Questions are very, very welcome. We're hopefully going to leave enough time for questions, but questions are welcome in the chat channel, which you can type into. And at the end, we'll let everyone come off mute and you can ask any questions. And as much time as we have left, we will open up discussion. And like everything we do, it's not supposed to be completely formal. We'll move through a formal presentation, but please feel free to interrupt in the chat channel. And if there's anything particularly relevant to what Richard is talking about, one of us will jump in and interrupt him and make sure that we answer the questions that you have. So with all of that, let me ask Richard to unmute, and I will mute myself. And yeah, thanks everyone for coming.
Yeah, thank you everyone for attending this webinar. I'm very happy to do it, to meet actual users of mSupply. I think that's a first for me. So yeah, so today, like Michael said, we're going to talk about Stocktake. And so the first thing is like, I'm going to share my screen. Okay. And start with the presentation. And again, like Michael said, if you have questions, don't hesitate to write your questions in the chat, so I can or we can answer your questions. Okay, so webinar about Stocktakes. So I would say that the first thing that I want to say is, like, obviously Stocktake are a very important part of warehouse management. It's a key process in making sure that you can always check and adjust your mSupply stock data with the actual physical stock of your warehouse. So obviously, it's a very useful tool, especially, I guess, in building trust into your data. So for multiple reasons, you can have differences, and this tool is going to be a way to always be able to check your data and adjust them if required. So why do we perform Stocktakes? Obviously, it's because some factors, some causes can create differences between mSupply and your actual stock. In a perfect world, if you were running your warehouse with every single stock movement recording in mSupply with a transaction, you would not need to do this. But unfortunately, I don't think there is a perfect warehouse on Earth, and you will always need to at least perform a Stocktakes to make sure that your data in mSupply and your actual physical stock are aligned in the system. And so here you can see what would be the main causes for that. So stock misplacement, human error, inventory shrinkage, mismanaged returns, that can be all that those causes can all lead to differences. And differences are a problem because obviously you can have business disruptions because of them, such as stock out. So your system is going to believe that you have stock, but in your warehouse, in the actual store, you haven't. So that's really important that at any time you can perform a Stocktake to make sure that your data are aligned with the system. And talking about, for instance, as well, like decision-making process, like when you're gonna need to submit a tender, your annual tender for your organization, it's very important that at some point you have the ability to make sure that you can provide a clear picture of your stock. So your procurement team will be able to quantify their needs accordingly and submit the tenders with the proper data. So mSupply offers you the possibility to run two main types of Stocktake. It's going to be either a full Stocktake, so it means that all the items of your store are going to be counted at one time, but also the ability to run partial Stocktake. So in that case, only part of your stock is counted. And for instance, for example, it could be a good way for carrying out smaller periodic checks. And for instance, based on a limited set of items, so you can choose, for instance, to run a partial Stocktake on your vaccines, on specific locations. So mSupply gives you the ability to do that. Do we have questions? I don't know. I'm just okay. But I would say that the way you're going to perform your Stocktake is really more about what is the desired outcome. So for instance, we already talked about it. So most of the time we see Stocktakes as a way to provide an accurate snapshot of the stock because somebody in your organization requested it, for instance. So we already gave the example of the annual tender. The procurement team, they need to have an accurate picture of the inventory. So they're going to ask you to perform a full Stocktake of your warehouse and use the data to submit their tenders. But it could be also for financial purpose. So you're going to be requested to provide the exact value of your overall inventory. So that could be one of the reasons to do that. But one objective of the Stocktake would be to provide that snapshot. But Stocktake could be also seen as a way to address operational issue. So not only as an exercise to provide a picture of your stock, but also to be used as a tool, for instance, to improve your performance, to measure and improve your performance in your warehouse. So you can, for instance, implement a regular spot check on your products that you will measure the accuracy of your inventory records, and then investigate the discrepancies between mSupply and your actual stock to improve it. And you're gonna run Stocktakes every week on a specific set of items, on a random number of items. And for all these objectives, yeah, you can use mSupply to do it. Okay, so let's move to the next one. I think what I really want to share with you is that you should see your Stockstake not only as a functionality in mSupply, in the software. So your Stockstake doesn't start when you're logging in mSupply and you're creating your sheets. And so it's actually more a project. And like for every project, you're gonna define an objective. So in the case, so let's take the example of the annual tender. So the objective here is to ensure that mSupply stock data is accurately reporting actual stock data by the end of the Stockstake. So to provide to procurement team an accurate picture of the stock. And I think what is important when we are talking about objective is that it's also very important, like if you want to engage people into this exercise, that can be sometimes seen as something that's going to create delay, that's going to create a lot of backlog in your warehouse. So it's also very good to communicate the objective and why we are doing such a thing, to make sure that people, yeah, understand that it's going to be useful. We're going to help our organization to quantify their quantities that they need for the tender. And of course, you have also other options to engage people. So it doesn't have to be boring, and it can also be like an opportunity to make it fun, like providing snacks or drinks, or by putting music in the warehouse. So, I mean, there is lots of ways, but I would say that sharing the context and the objective of a Stockstake is really critical to engage people into it. Yeah, like any project, you will need to define your scope. So in mSupply, the scope would be which location are going to be counted. So here, for instance, in that case, we have only 2 locations, but obviously you can have many. So in that case, we are performing a full Stockstake for procurement. So we're gonna count all locations and all the items. For instance, what is very useful, that's what we did in my previous organization, is that you can use Excel sheet table to make sure that you have listed all your locations and all the items that you are supposed to find in those locations. So as kind of, yeah, like a checklist that you can check after you perform the Stockstake to make sure that you didn't miss anything, or you didn't. So that could be a good way to make sure that you have, like, you know, okay, we have 25 locations to be counted, and after the Stockstake, I can check that we did count all the locations. Another very important data is obviously the date. You want to be sure that the date is clearly defined. It's going to be one specific day, maybe even one specific time, one specific hour, and you want to make sure that this date has been defined in collaboration with as many people as possible in your organization. You want it to be the best date or the best time to do it. And then I guess required documents or required tools. So you want to make sure that you have, yeah, all the documents that you need. I would say the most important are the Stocktake sheet, but also, like, I don't know, clipboard, pens. So you want to make sure that you have prepared everything, that you have all the tools that you need to perform it. And I would say the most important part maybe as well is like your staff. So you need to assemble a team for that Stockstake, and you need to make sure that everybody knows what's going to be their role in that Stockstake. So for instance, here in this example, you have the leader, that would be, for instance, a warehouse manager. I don't know if I'm deciding. Oh. I'm going back to it. Okay. Okay, I'm back. So yeah, so you want to make sure that your staff, I mean, you have a clear idea of who is going to take care of the stocktake, that people know what they're going to do. And also I would say one very important thing is that you want to check that everybody has been trained for the stocktake. So how to perform a stocktake, because sometimes it can be very obvious for you what is needed for a stocktake. But I mean, for instance, when you look at the stocktake sheet of mSupply, it's not straightforward. That I mean, you need to be told that pack, for instance, on the sheet is actually pack size. That quam is actually the snapshot quantity, the quantity of mSupply. We're going to see it afterwards. But yeah, if somebody have never done a stocktake before, it's worth taking the time to maybe check the training and provide the training if needed. Okay, and obviously, as any project, stocktake doesn't start the day of the stocktake. You have to prepare it in advance, maybe weeks, maybe months in advance. I would say 1 month in advance seems quite enough to do it. You need time because you're gonna want to inform your customers. For instance, if you have a big warehouse and the stocktake is gonna last a week, it's nice for them to be able to inform your customers so they can, for example, they can process the order in advance. So if they know already that they're gonna need something, they can ask it earlier. So it's not gonna be a problem during the stocktake to process urgent orders. You can inform your suppliers, for instance, to avoid the deliveries during the week of the stocktake. So you can ask them to deliver the goods before or after. And for instance, also like if you have some staff that require training, it's also good. Like it's also giving you time to make sure that everybody is trained for the stocktake. A few hours before, so before you actually launch the project, you want to make sure in mSupply that your system is kind of clean. So I'm talking here about pending orders, pending deliveries. So you want them to be processed before the stocktake. So you can check in mSupply, what are your pending deliveries, what are your pending orders, process them if you can. And if there is orders, for instance, that are awaiting dispatch, or if you have during the stocktake like unexpected deliveries, I think a good way is like you want to exclude them from the scope of the stocktake. So you don't want to, that you don't want them to be counted. So I don't know, in my former company, we would like have red sticker and we would just stick a red sticker on the pallet, meaning that this specific pallet should not be counted. It is already out of the stock because the order has already been processed, or it is an unexpected delivery from a supplier and we're gonna process it after we finalize the stocktake. Okay. During the stocktake, I would say the most important thing, and you probably all know about this, but we really want to reinforce that idea that you should not have any transaction happening in mSupply during the stocktake. It's very important. So I guess it's good maybe to provide an example of why it's not a good idea to still processing orders, for instance, during a stocktake. So imagine that one of your staff members is gonna count one specific location and is gonna fill his stocktake sheet, and then he's gonna go to another one. In the meantime, somebody is gonna take 10 units of that location and use them for a customer order. So that means that now your stock is actually 10 units less than what you have written on your sheet. When you're gonna go to enter your data in mSupply, so your stocktake data in mSupply, your inventory on your sheet is actually already wrong. It's already missing 10 units, and you're gonna overwrite your stock with those data. So, I mean, to avoid this kind of confusion, this kind of discrepancy, I mean, stocktake is about having an accurate picture of your stock. So you really want this to be perfect and not creating new mistakes because of the stocktake. So I think the best, good practice is really to have no transaction during a stocktake in mSupply. And of course, I would say that there is an after the stocktake. So the Stocktakes is finalized where you are creating the inventory adjustments. So we're going to see it in the live demonstration. So as soon as you click on that button, your stock level are going to change. And this, and I think it's always a good idea, like especially if you have big discrepancies, you really want to check the situation of your supply, for instance. So if you just realize that you have a big discrepancy on one specific product, you have less than what you expected, you might check with your suppliers if you can order a new, if you can place a new order for that product. And obviously the opposite is also true. Like if you have too much, you might want to check with your suppliers if you can reduce the quantity you ordered or amend the quantity or even cancel an order. So that would be the first thing to do just after the stock take. So we're going to show you how you can extract data from mSupply to actually look at those stock adjustments that have been made during the stock take, at the end of the stock take, yeah. Okay, so now we're going to do the live demonstration. So Michael.
Yeah, so to let everyone know, you're all being assigned to the mSupply mobile room, but please don't click through to the mSupply mobile room unless you want to see the mSupply mobile demonstration. So if you want to stay with Richard, who is going to go through desktop, just click, I think you click stay or something like that. So you're all now assigned and can join, and I will go over to that room. Join here for mSupply. Sorry, I'll just write you all a message. And if nobody wants to come across, that's totally fine. I will see you back here. Hello, everyone. I'm so sorry. I didn't realize it would do that. That should work for you now, Richard.
Yeah, I can speak again. Thank you.
Apologies. Sorry.
No, that's all right. I wasn't expected anyway. Okay. Okay, so I guess I'm just gonna go through. So obviously that's the starting window. Everybody knows this window, I guess, the mSupply navigator. And today we're gonna be interested in the item icon that's here. So this item icon, this item menu, you already know it because that's where you can manage your items and you can access your stock data, for instance. And today we are going to use that specific functionality called Stocktakes. Okay, so to access it, we're gonna click on it. So maybe a note here, I think, so the window is hiding somewhere here. I think it's very important that you always try to keep that list of pending stock take clean. So here you can see I have one stock take it's the status of this stock take is SG, meaning suggested. That means that it's pending one. So I don't know, like it has been created somewhere in the past with old data. Now I'm going to start a new stock take. So it's very risky to have a pending stock take like that, because if for some reason somebody in your organization is going to finalize it, to adjust the inventory of mSupply according to that stock take, then it could really create a mess, because obviously those there is a high chance that those data are completely obsolete and not at all what you have in your warehouse. So what I would say, like, you're going to start your new stock take for whatever the reason, your full stock take. So I would say that the good practice would be just to actually delete pending stock take. You can always check first if they are still valid, but yeah, good practice would be just to delete them. So here you have this minus button, delete stock take. You select the stock take first, you click on the button, and then you can confirm that you want to delete it. But now, to create a new one, you're going to go on that new stock take button, the plus button here. A new window is going to appear, and here, for instance, first we're going to show how to perform a full stock take. So to perform a full stock take, it's actually quite easy, because you don't change anything to the filters in that window. So you just have to click on OK. After clicking on OK, you're gonna have again a new window called the Stocktake sheet. And here is gonna appear in the table here all the products for which you have stock in mSupply right now. So you have the location, the item code, the item name, the batch number, the expiry date. The snapshot quantity is what mSupply thinks the quantity is in the system. The pack size, so how many units of that product in one pack. And enter quantity is where you're gonna change the quantity later after the count, after the stock take. And for now, the quantity is the same as the one that mSupply think it is. So it assumes that the quantity is correct, and you have to change it if it's not. But for now, that's not what we want to do. What we want to do, what is very important, is that here on the very top of the window, you can change the description of the stock take. So that's basically the name of the stock takes. And to make sure that, yeah, you're not going to confuse it with another one, and that you will know exactly by reading the description what it is, I think it's very important to give it a proper name. So I would say the date is important. Maybe the scope, like full stock take. I don't know, is it big enough, or yeah, I think so. Full stock take, and in that case, I would say it's enough. So you know that that's the full stock take that's happening on December the 9th, 2020. And obviously you have also just below some comments. So if you need to give more context, so here, for instance, we know that it's the preparation for the annual tender. Okay. So I think don't skip that part. I think it's very important that you give name. You can find a way to name it, but to make sure that every time you are going to see the name of that stock take, you know what it is. I think it's very important. Okay, then the next thing that you want to do before printing your stock take sheets, is actually to sort the item the way it suits you the best. So you can actually sort your items based on any of these fields, any of these things. So you just have to click on the header. So here, for instance, I'm sorting the item based on the location name, but I could also sort them by clicking on the expiry dates. So here from the shortest expiry date to the longest expiry date, or even on the quantity. It really depends. But I think I would say that most of the time you would choose to sort them by location and then by item name. And you have this option in mSupply. You can click on that button called Order By, and you can automatically sort your items by location and then by item name. So that would automatically create, so here we have the blue location and then the fridge location, so 2 locations. And then all your items are sorted on the alphabetical order. So I think it's a nice way, it's a quick way. And then what you want to do to make sure that you don't have to do it every time you're going to open that sheet is that you can save your sort order here. So that means that every time you're gonna open that Stocktake, you won't have to sort them again. It will keep it that way. So that's what I'm gonna do here. Okay. I think now we are ready to print our sheets. So to print our sheets, we are going to the print menu and then general. And here we're gonna talk about two main options that you can choose. So here in form to use, it's gonna be the format of your sheets. And as I just said, we're gonna recommend maybe two of them. So the first one is gonna be the first on the list, called Stocktake line. So don't worry, everything is in the PowerPoint that we're gonna share with you. So it just here is just for the live demonstration, but yeah, just to tell you that you don't have to remember the name now. It's gonna be on the PowerPoint, but still. So Stocktake line, the first one on the list. I'm gonna do a preview. I'm gonna show it again. I probably have been too fast. So yeah, so here is the PDF file for the Stocktake sheet. So here you can see that you can find your name, the description of your Stocktake. Here it's to say like this is actually the 27th Stocktake of your organization. So it's like number 27. What is also very nice here is that you have the numbering of your page. So here we have just one of one, but I guess if you have hundreds of pages, it's nice to keep an eye on this indication, just not to lose the order of your pages. And of course, you're gonna find the same information that you can see on the mSupply Stocktake sheet. So the code, the item name, the batch, the expiry date, the pack size. So pack means pack size, and quan is the snapshot quantity. So once again, it's the quantity that mSupply think it is. And that's the only format. So this format is the only format that allows you to see the mSupply quantity. So what you are expecting to find. And obviously you have a blank space here to enter the actual quantity that you're gonna find during the Stocktake. So if it's not 6,000, then you're gonna enter 5,800, for instance. Okay. So the thing about this one is that this is the only sheet that will show the snapshot quantity. That's the main thing about it, I would say.
Do you want to just explain that it might be quite good if it's like if you're out by 2, then you might, if you know what the quantity is, you can go back and recount straight away.
Yeah, sure. So yeah, one of the big pros of that Stocktake sheet is like, because you know that the system thinks there's going to be, for instance, 6,000 units. If you only find 5,999 units in your stock, you might want to count again. So that gives you an idea of what you're supposed to find. Or even in actually on the other way, like if you are missing a big part of the stock, you might want to check maybe behind the shelves, I don't know, like somewhere else, but it might be that the products are maybe somewhere else. So I would say the pro is really this, that it gives you an idea of what you are supposed to find in your stock. So yeah. The second one. So again, you can go into the print menu, general, and the second one is going to be this one, Stocktake line with quantity big font. So just maybe to explain a bit slower what I did earlier to get the preview. So you have multiple options, obviously, to print your Stocktake, and one of them is preview. And for me, but I guess it's the same for everyone, it's going to open a PDF file that you can actually save on your computer as well. But you have other options like save it on your disk. You can email the PDF file, and you can also export it to Excel, and we're going to explain why it could be useful. So let's make a preview of the second option that you have in terms of sheets format. So once again here the difference, I would say that, I think the name of the format indicates it, but like you have the tables, it's a bit bigger as well, so it's easier to read, and we know that's important when you are actually counting in the location to actually be able to properly see the name of the codes and the batch of the code. But there is something missing. You don't see the snapshot quantity. So when you are going to count, you have no idea of what you're going to find. And that's also could be, I mean, from my experience, because I have done as well Stocktake in the past. I mean, sometimes if you have 10 or 20 items in a row where the quantity between mSupply and the actual stock, is the same, you might just assume, okay, all of them are going to be correct. I'm not saying that's something that you should do, but it can happen, you know, especially if you have a lot to do. Oh, I think, yeah, so I would say that not to influence your count, this could be also a good idea, not to have the snapshot quantity. So I guess it's really, and anyway, the snapshot quantity, you're always gonna have them in mSupply when you're gonna enter the data. So if you see a big discrepancy, at that moment, you can always go back to the staff member and say, oh, maybe you missed something. Yeah.
So there's a question, they won't hear me. They want to know if they can print a blank line under each of them. So
yeah, so that's actually something that we covered when we prepared that that webinar. Right. So what do we do when we have a discovered item? No,
not quite the question. So just maybe read the question. Just say to Ashley, because they can't hear me. So the question is, after each item, will there be a blank line? But I think in this one, if you scroll down right, there are blank lines.
Yeah, there is. Oh, yeah, sure. So yeah, to answer to your question, Ashley. So yes, so this one is already offering you the possibility at the end of every page. So that's not only the first page, but here, for instance, you're gonna see it as well. It's giving you the opportunity to write, batches that will not be listed on the Stocktake sheet. So okay, but then you have also like another format. You can print a specific format in the multiple format that you can choose when printing your sheet. But I think it's quite annoying because it's like giving you 5 lines below the product. And it's like, it's gonna create a lot of pages, obviously. It's gonna multiply the number of pages. So I don't know if it's a good, but then at least here you have this. And the other option as well for this, so which is, it could be for missing item, discovered item, but also for new batch, is actually to have always a paper, a blank paper, dedicated to this kind of missing items or missing batch. I don't think I've prepared the example, but that's something that we can share with you afterwards. So that's just a piece of paper, and you can enter the data. Like, I think it's a good way as well to, like, if you're going to one location, you always have this sheet, this paper, and you can write every item that you just discovered. Okay. So I just have now, I'm going back to the presentation just to, so as you can see, maybe just a few words as well, like everything is detailed. So you have snapshot of every step in mSupply to make sure. So everything that I'm telling you now, you can actually find it again in the presentation. And I wanted to show you this because I guess it's always nice to have, I'm gonna share it. It's always nice to have a real life example. So I did it myself. So it's my writing. So yeah, so you see, it's quite nice. It's quite big. You have like a nice space to enter your actual stock. And obviously here, that's what I did. So you see, I discovered a new batch for amoxicillin. I have already QQ1 and QQ2, and I've added QQ3 that was not listed in my list. So yeah, I think it's, yeah, that's a good example. And now, so I've went to my location, I have counted all the products, and now it's time for me to enter these data into mSupply and to change the quantity when it's needed. And of course, at the end, to create the inventory adjustment step that will finalize the Stocktake. So we go back to mSupply. Actually, I will go from the beginning. Oh, I think I didn't save it, so but then it's going to be the same. So I'm just going to, oh no, that's the one. Sorry, no, that's the one. Okay. So I'm back now. So I have my actual quantity. And I want now to change the quantity that are not correct. So the one where we have differences between what we counted and the mSupply data. So obviously you can see that having assuming that the quantity will be the same can be quite useful, because you expect that you're not going to have so many mistakes. So it's always nice to not to have to change all the data. So you have two options to change the quantity. So you can double click on the line. So double click on the line. A new window is gonna open. You're gonna see the name of your item. You're gonna see the snapshot quantity. So again, mSupply quantity or the expected quantity. And here you have the stocktake quantity. So that's where you're gonna say, okay, I didn't count 6,000 units, but 5,800 units, for instance. So that's one way to change the quantity. In this option, you have also the possibility to change, for instance, the batch number, the expiry dates, the location as well. If you found that item in another location than the one you were supposed to, and the price information, cost price and sell price. Something that could be useful as well is that you have the ability to change the color of this specific item. So for instance, if you think that the quantity that has been found during the stocktake is weird and it's like a big discrepancy, you might want to highlight it in red, meaning that, for instance, you want to investigate further to make sure that this is a real discrepancy, and red meaning that you don't want to finalize the stocktake right now. So that could be a way to use the color here. And I will show you how it is then in the table. So as soon as you're done with all your changes, you can either cancel, of course. So it means that you're not happy with your change, so you don't want to acknowledge them. You can click on OK, that will acknowledge this change, acknowledge the changes. And you can also click on OK and next. And this option is going to open the next line. So it's going to allow you to make the same changes for the next line. So here we are at line number 1. It's going to move to line number 2. And you can go down. You can make all your list through this. So I'm just going to show you how it works. So here, I just click on OK and next. And now I'm looking at the second item. So it means batch QQ2 for amoxicillin. And you can make the change. But like we said, you don't have to make changes for every item. So that's where you have another option. So you see now, because I decided to put it in red, it's highlighted in red. So again, that could be useful. The other possibility that you have to change the quantity is actually to go over the cell and just make a slow click. Okay, so just go over the cell, make one single click, and then you see that the quantity is going to be highlighted, selected, and here you can change the quantity. So for instance, here I'm going to have only 3,000 units instead of 3,480 units. What is also very useful here is that when you're done here, you can click on tab, and that will allow you to navigate from one cell to another quite quickly. So for instance, if you have multiple changes to do, so you just did that one, you're moving, you can say, if you have a comment, you can enter it as well. And then you can click on tab again, and you will go directly to the next line, the line below. And you can, if you have to change the quantity, then you change the quantity. Otherwise, you can move quickly to the other one, and like that. So that's something very useful. You can use it. This tab function is actually useful for many functionalities in mSupply, but I wanted to tell you this again. Now, so this is only, so I only show you how to update the quantity for items that are listed on this table. But as we already said, we can find new batch for one product, or we can find a new product in the location. So you need to be able to enter a new product for which that is not listed on this list. So the way to do that in mSupply is actually to click on the plus button, new line. By clicking on it, a new window will appear, and here let's take the example where you have a new batch. So for instance, I just found a new batch for amoxicillin. So I can type here. Here again, you can use the tab function. So you can only enter the first letters of your product, and that will automatically compute the full name of your item. What is very interesting here, you can actually see the existing batch. So if your discovered item is actually the same information as one of the batch here, you can just select it and use details of line selected above. So I'm going to do it, and it's going to automatically update the batch number and the expiry date. So you don't have to do it again if the batch already exists in your database. However, here we just said that it's a new batch. So let's say that I found 5,000 units of that new batch. The pack size is the same as the others, so it's just 1 tab per pack. As I said, the batch is QQ4. I can enter the delivery date the same way as for the others. I found it in blue location, and the cost price is the same as the previous one. So I know it's 50, and so this is all right. And as soon as I have updated my quantity, to add this item to my list, it's very simple. You just have to click on Add New, and now you're going to be able to see your new item. So amoxicillin, batch QQ4, 5,000 units. And when you're going to finalize your stock take, this item will then be added to your available stock. So I guess this is very important. So you can do that for a new batch, you can do that for a new code, for a new item. So I think there is something also very that could be interesting to do is like, obviously, if you have in one location, you are missing 1,000 units of one specific product, and in another location, you just found 1,000 units of the same product. It might be just because one product has been moved from one location to another. So, I mean, just a way to say that that's something that you can check as well. And that's also why we recommend to actually to create one sheet for one full stock take, because if you have several sheets for several stock take, that's going to be hard then to reconcile the data afterwards. So, I mean, if I'm not clear, you can ask the question, but I just wanted to say this. I think, if I'm not wrong, that we are reaching the final step, the most important step.
It's good timing because everyone's come back now.
Oh, perfect. So yeah. So the most important step, because now if I click on OK here, I'm going to close the Stocktakes sheet, but I will not finalize it, meaning that my stock will not change. This is very important to know because I guess it's happening from time to time. To finalize a Stocktake, you need to create the inventory adjustment. And this is the option. So the button here, Create Inventory Adjustment. This step is the final step because that's not reversible. So you want to make sure that you have updated all your quantities, all your batch number, you have added all the discovered item before doing so. And as soon as you're doing so, your Stocktake status will change from suggested to finalized, FN. But that's really important to know that your Stocktake is not over if you haven't clicked on that button and that you have confirmed that you want to process with that inventory adjustments, with these inventory adjustments. So I want to proceed. Yeah, and now actually you can see that my status has changed to finalized FN. I don't have as many options. I cannot add any new item to that list. I think I cannot change the quantity. No, I can't. No, I can't change because it's finalized. So it's over. So, I mean, if you have new changes to be done, you will need to run another Stocktake. So that's why it's important to make sure that you have all the data, that you've done all the changes, and then you can, you can create the inventory adjustment and finalize your Stocktake. So I'm going to close it just to show you how it is now in the list. So you see, yeah, so you have the name of your Stocktake, the finalize, and you can access it again afterwards, but just double click on it. So yeah. And next time you're going to open the Stocktakes stocktake sheet, a stocktake function, is not gonna be here because it's not part of your current stocktake. So, but you can always find it again. You just have to look into that menu. And for instance, if you're looking for your stocktake that you performed this year, so the current year, you can just go there and you will be able to find your stocktake again. So sorry, it's a bit confusing because lots of the names are the same because I prepared that meeting, but yeah, you can just click on your stocktake. Oh.
I think because you've got another one open still.
Okay, maybe, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so normally if I double click on it, it should open the stocktake again. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Okay, so now it's more about what you can do after. We wanted to give you just one thing that you can do after your stocktake. So as soon as you have finalized your data, finalize your stocktake by creating the inventory adjustment. I'm going to present again. Or I could show it as well, but so after the stocktake, so what you should do. So again, we said that one of the good things that you could do, but the good thing of what you could do is obviously to check if you have big discrepancies, you can double check if it's not a mistake coming from the stocktake, but you can also, and if it's a real mistake, you want to be sure that your supply situation, I mean, the health of your supply situation, you make sure that you have enough, that you, if you want to place a new order, stuff like that. But you also might want to measure your inventory records accuracy to kind of know where you are. So, I mean, what's my score? So, am I doing a good job in maintaining my inventory accuracy records? And the stocktake is also an opportunity to do that. And you have options in mSupply. So I think I'm just going to go back to mSupply. And are we good on time? Yeah. So I'm going back. So I just select again my finalized stocktake, and amongst the remaining available option, you still have the print option. And here, under general, you're going to have the possibility to actually create a report with the inventory adjustment that has been made for that specific stocktake. So here, the first option is the inventory, all the items with inventory adjustment. And this report is about, it's like all the items of your stocktake. So not only the one with inventory adjustments. So it's going to be including the one, without adjustment. So again, you can, so if you click on it, you can have those printing options. So here, it's basically just to add some information. So that's going to appear on your Excel sheet or on your PDF file. So I'm just going to show how it goes. And in this case, I'm going to choose to open it in Excel because then I will be able to manipulate the data. So I'm clicking on OK now to confirm that so I've got a pop-up window, but it's going to appear now in Excel. Okay, and you see, so here now you have an Excel table with all your data. So you need to be aware that those data are actually aggregated. So you, for instance, you only see one amoxicillin, despite the fact that you have 4 batches now of that specific product. So the changes that you're going to see between the original and the actual quantity are actually aggregated at the item level. But we know because we made the changes that we discovered a new batch for that specific item and we changed the quantity as well because for one of them, the quantity was not correct. But that could be a good way, for instance, if you're looking to check your supply situation, let's say, okay, now I'm missing, I have 4,800 units more than what I expected. So I maybe want to cancel an order because it's going to be too much. I don't want to have too much on my inventory. Okay. I may ask Michael or Emily to confirm, but I think here, if I had price set up in the system, that would also indicate the value, so the amount in value. But I think here for that demonstration, I don't have any price set up, so that's why we don't see it. We see it as 0.
Yeah, that's right, Richard. That's what those columns are for.
Okay, so very good. And so just to end this webinar, I think what I wanted to show you is that just an example of what you can do with this kind of data, something that we did in my previous company, for instance, and that, so how you can use those data to measure your performance. So this is the table. So in the first table, the table number 10, you're going to see different stock takes. So the stock take of the 9th of December, the 9th of January, and the stock take of the 9th of February, for instance. So how do we say, like a consecutive stock take. The number of items that we've counted. So it's going to be 15 units. Like this count can change from one stock take to another. Here you're going to indicate how many items are with error. So for how many items I did find discrepancies between the mSupply quantity and the actual quantity, and what that means, and translate it into a percentage. So here you should read this as 40% of my inventory records are incorrect. And your objective here, so one stock take after another, is actually to drive down that number. So to make sure that you're gonna perform multiple stock take, and you're gonna reduce the number of items with error and that percentage down. What is also interesting, I think, is that not all mistakes, error or difference are the same. So you also want to have an idea of the size of the error. So for instance, so that's going to be the purpose of this table on the right. And here you're going to say, okay, I have 6 items for which I have differences in between supplies and the stock, but half of those items, the mistake is very small. So meaning that this mistake is only between 0 and 5% of the actual quantity. So it's a small mistake. So it doesn't have, it's still a mistake, but it's not as bad as a big mistake where you have more than 50% difference between what you expected and the actual quantity. So that's also a way to say, okay, maybe I can say I will never be perfect, because it's like when you have a big warehouse, it's very difficult to reach 100% accuracy, but you still have an idea of the size of the errors that you're finding during a stock take. So again, the idea here is really like, in this case, you want to try to achieve 0% one stock take after the other. And here you want to drive to the left, meaning that you want to make sure that you have less and less mistakes over 50% of the actual quantity, and more in that size where it's just minimum small mistake, small error. Okay.
Richard, there's a question in the chat channel here about how you are creating that table. That's not an automated report, right? This is something that you've done in Excel.
Actually, maybe we could maybe see what we can do, but yeah, no, it's not an automated report. It's like just how you can use the data in Excel that we just extracted together. And I mean, in the slide, I'm providing how you can calculate it, but then it's like very easy to do, like just a few calculations for each stock take. I guess you can even like use like the same formula, one stock take after the other. So you just have to set it up once, and then you can just extend like you can do in Excel. So no, it's not an automated report in mSupply. And by the way, I'm not aware of available automated reports similar as this one in mSupply. Am I correct, Michael?
No, I don't think so. That's, yeah, it's as you say, it's probably a good one for someone to request one day, because it's a super useful report to see how you're tracking, but it's not automated.
Oh, okay. I think for me that's the end, but yeah.
Thanks, Richard, and that is great timing. We've come to the end of the hour. We probably can steal 2 minutes or so if anyone's got any extra questions. There's actually been quite a few good questions in the chat channel, and most of them I think we've answered as we've gone along. But I think we could answer any final ones that people have. But otherwise, as you can see, the stocktake functionality in mSupply can be quite involved. And if it's used properly, it can be a super, super useful tool, not just for counting the stock on your shelf, but for driving improvements in the warehouse. And that's ultimately what you should be aiming to do with the Stocktakes. So thank you to Richard. We'll hold the next one of these. I'm not too sure about January. It might be a bit tricky with everyone away, but maybe in late January, but definitely in February, we'll start these again and make it a monthly thing. Oh, one final question from Ash. Is there a preference for cycle counts to be in Stocktake or inventory adjustments? I just need to try and understand that question. Is there, maybe I'll just take you off mute, Ash, if that works. From just ask you to unmute. Oh, there we go.
You got me there, Mick?
Yeah, perfect.
So my question is, so we're doing a lot of cycle counts, so either by item number or say a bin location as an example. So we could either do that in Stocktake by location, if you know, for one of it, or we could do it in straight inventory adjustment, adjusting that count up or down from what the system says we should have. So I've been asked a couple of times, is there a reason why we would do Stocktake and not inventory adjustment?
Yeah, it's a really good question, because ultimately they arrive at the same thing, where you do a stock, when you're doing a Stocktake, it ultimately results in inventory adjustments. My suggestion would be to do a Stocktake for two reasons. One, you can attach more information to a Stocktake so that they can be more transparent, because you can show that you've done the Stocktake and it's comprehensive. But secondly, you'll save yourself time, because if it's combination in reporting, when you finish the Stocktake, it will create both adjustments up and adjustments down. And then, as Richard showed, you can report on the aggregate sort of result. And of course, what happens in most cases is that items have moved. They haven't been lost or they haven't been discovered. They've just been moved. You save yourself from doing two transactions manually if you're doing it in a Stocktake. But you are right that you can do it as an inventory adjustment. The other advantage to doing it as a Stocktake, of course, is that it does a lot of the work for you. If you're trying to do a bin location, you go into the Stocktakes function and you get a report on all the items in that bin or in that location. So you don't have to go and work them out yourself. And similarly, if you're doing it by item, you can just run a Stocktake on all the items. It will show you all the locations and it saves you all that work up front. So personally, I would recommend a Stocktake, but functionally, absolutely, you can do inventory adjustments and it will achieve the same effect.
No, that's great. Thank you. My preference has always been Stocktake, but I keep getting the question on why don't we just do an inventory adjustment? So I wasn't sure what you were saying. Totally. Yeah. And if it's a small... Noonan said that's the way to do it.
Yeah, well, that's going to convince anyone. I mean, it's also... it's super tempting when it's a small location and you're talking like one item. It's so tempting to just do an inventory adjustment because it's faster for one item or whatever. But yeah, there's, as I say, I'm with you. I prefer Stocktakes. So yeah, you can tell them that's what we tell them. Yeah.
And also, I think, I mean, inventory adjustments from my experience, they were always used, like, for instance, I always remember that we were doing them like when we have a order return, a customer order that's being returned, that would make sense to make an inventory adjustment because you know already what you're going to return into stock. So you have the quantity of the I don't know, on the big slip. So it's easy. So yeah. So it would be like when you have like, or when you are scrapping an expired product, for instance. So you know as well how much you're scrapping, you're destroying, so you can make your negative adjustment.
That's right, because you can now categorize inventory adjustments as expired stock or whatever. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, keep the value of what you're scrapping, or yeah, or the amount of that is being returned by customers for whatever the reason. So
yeah. Okay, well, we've definitely gone past the hour now. We will share Richard will share that presentation with everyone. As I say, we've got everyone's emails, so we'll get that around to you. And any more questions, please feel free to get in touch. I know that you've all got our email addresses. Thanks everyone for joining, and we'll see you next time in this webinar series.